And for IEBC, we saw 4 new commissioners take the oath of office and begin their work, and they'll be the people that will be steering the 2022 general election. Of course, they have about 11 months or so to do that, but already they are facing some challenges, which I'll be looking at shortly. But let's first listen to what the leaders, that is Speaker Muturi and Martha Karua, said in as far as IEBC is concerned.
Tume ya IEBC iajibike. Tumewapitisha jana wale 4 ambao walikuwa wamebaki, na tutakuwa tayari kuwapatia bajeti ambayo inafaa, inatosha, lakini ni lazima wahakikishie wa Kenya through public participation and consultations with all the players, not just some players.
And the next general election, my worry is whether as a nation we will be able to have free and fair elections. Nimekuwa nikisema Electoral Commission wanaendelea kupanga uchaguzi bila kutuhusisha, public participation. Tunataka tuwaulize, je, mbona koti ikafuta uchaguzi wa rais? Si ni kusema ilikuwa madhambi? Madhambi gani hao, na mumerekebisha vipi? Tukienda kwa uchaguzi ujao bila kurekebisha, zote tutakuwa taabuni.
All right, they're talking about openness, transparency, public participation, and correcting the challenges of 2017. Let's quickly look at what happened to the Kim's kits tender. They had, of course, floated that tender sometime in April, inviting interested organizations to come and supply and deliver Kim's kits, installation, testing, and commissioning of the Kim's technology, support and maintenance, and hardware equipment and accessories that would be necessary for the management of the election technology. The reasons for cancellation was first that foreign tenderers must source 40% of supplies from citizen contractors, that is in Kenya, and they must also reserve at least 75% of employment opportunities for the Kenyan citizens, and out of this, 20% of the opportunities must be for Kenyan professionals at management level. So this information was not specified in the tender document. That is why it was nullified. And the board, that is the Public Procurement Administrative Review Board, said that these provisions are not mere suggestions or flowery aspirations that should be tangentially referred to show compliance. That is what the statement said. But also the other thing is that now they have been ordered to come up with a fresh tender document within 30 days. The judgment of the finding was released on the 1st of September, so that takes them to 1st of October, or thereabout, and then IEBC is to retender the Kim's technology within 45 days. That is up to mid-October. That is obviously according to the board. But as these gentlemen come on board, SG Sifuna, what is the expectation, especially that now they're already facing the challenges with the procurement? The other tenders that have already been floated, specifically on the ballot papers and election materials, talking about the forms and results declaration forms. So what are your expectations and thoughts as the 4 new commissioners join the other counterparts to form a full commission?
Sam, just before that, just one final word on the discussion we're having, that in fact, what you're seeing in all these regions is a desire for a government, the next government that will come, to be an inclusive government. You can have a government that does very well, does all the roads in Mandera, takes care of Maoka's concerns with regards to Mira. But if the cabinet, from the president to the smallest person in government, are all lawyers, you will still have problems. People would like to see the face of Kenya in every sphere of life. So it is not even something to be ashamed of, Maoka. When you come and you say, we as the people of Northeastern would like to see 4 of our own in your cabinet, it is not something to be afraid, to be ashamed of, because that inclusivity is a discussion we must have, because inclusion is the foundation of peace, and without peace, whatever economic programs you have will not be able to be put together. Now, on the question of the IEBC, I am happy that now we have a full complement of commissioners at the IEBC. my expectation, as always, has been that whoever is at the commission and in any other position of public service, you just follow the law. I mean, that is our minimum expectation. It is quite embarrassing, Sam, that you see the same language being employed by the Public Procurement Administrative Review Board that was employed during the Supreme Court cases, that in fact, when you have clear guidelines on how you're supposed to do your job, whether it is in the transmission of results or on how you procure, if you just follow the law, then you will not run into any problems. We were at the commission last week, for instance, to have a conversation with them. You know, initially we were not involved when they were developing their, you know, elections operations plan. And they came up with a timetable of about 7 days for party primaries in April. And we as ODM feel that because of our uniqueness, you know, these political parties, we are not the same. We have to conduct primaries across the breadth of the country. And our people, our supporters are very clear in their minds that this time round, they want free and fair primaries. So we felt that we could not conduct them in 7 days. We would like to be given sufficient time for us to conduct our primaries so that there is a sufficient time even for internal dispute resolutions and so on and so forth, so that people can see that the party is serious about in its commitment to free and fair primaries. So I want to urge these commissioners, and in fact, as a sign of goodwill, especially from hearing the pronouncements of the High Court and even in the Court of Appeal on the BBI cases, I would have hoped that the you know, major decisions that the Commission makes towards election preparedness were put off until now we have the full complement of the 7 commissioners, so that those decisions do not get stuck in the same mud that the court has pointed out. I agree with what Martha Karua was saying there, that in fact, if you don't address the obvious challenges that were already been pointed out by the Supreme Court in 2017 and by the High Court in the BBI cases, then you are setting up yourself for failure. We want the Commission to succeed. By the way, sometimes people think that we are unnecessarily adversarial with the Commission. I think we have a very good rapport. The Commission and the Chairman Chebukati is always available for us to have conversations with him. Now, the problem is sometimes the output of those conversations is what sometimes is not very satisfactory. We are hoping, because he promised us as ODM that in the next, he said in the next 2 weeks, he should have put the question of our primaries before plenary. We are hoping for a positive response so that ODM can get sufficient time to conduct its primaries.
Okay, and I want us to look at what other priorities the IEBC commissioners will have to embark on as time ticks ahead. They have now to look at this specific, very important tenders, like the one that the election technology that has to be retendered by mid-October. The ballot papers, of course, results declaration forms and register of voters. They have already floated that tender. We wait to see the outcome of that. The audit of voters register. Once the mass vote registration has been done, there has to be cleanup by quote-unquote reputable auditor to look at it, to ensure that it represents the right names and details of voters. Then they must also do, as a matter of priority, recruit a new chief executive officer. They have not had a substantive CEO since Ezra Chiloba was fired in 2018. Marjan Hussein Marjan has been serving in acting capacity. They must also appoint directors and senior managers. Most of the directors and some senior managers have been operating on acting capacity. They must recruit election returning officers, one of the contentious issues of 2017 when Justice Odunga found that the returning officers had not been recruited in a public participation manner. They may have to reshuffle county election managers. This is something they do at every election cycle. They have to review the campaign. They may have to review the campaign financing limits that were pretty contentious, with people saying that they should have been taken to Parliament before being gazetted, and they must review key procurement tenders, like I said earlier on. And Dr. Eden Kenan, as you reflect on this, what are your expectations within Commission now fully constituted, yet so much work to do, so many errors to correct, including dealing with the challenges of transmission that may not have a lot to do with them. If you had to talk about the 3G connectivity in the country that appears not have to be corrected over the past 4 years.
I think first, I think we are happy right now that IEBC is fully constituted. I think as the SG of ODM has just alluded to. And what we need right now is to allow IEBC to operate within the law, both in the letter and the spirit, engage all the different stakeholders, because they're expected to referee politicians. And you know, refereeing politicians is a very difficult job, extremely difficult job. I don't envy their job. Let's give them space. Let's allow them to do their job in line with the Constitution. Let's not assassinate them, because at the end of the day, you are hammering the very person that you really want to referee your event. It's a very difficult job to satisfy the aspirations, the thinking of every political grouping. I think my appeal to the political class right now is we have made it a habit to bash IEBC, you know, at the beginning of every general election. Let's allow them space. Let them do their job. Let's hold them to account, actually, in compliance in how they follow the law. If they do that, everybody will be happy. We may not all be happy to the extent that some will lose, some will win. But we'll all be happy if they follow strictly what the law says. Right now, they're expected, because of the challenges. We do not want IEBC again later on to be accused of being the cause of the political challenges of this country. We want them also to look at all the pitfalls, the challenges all the past commissions have had, and come up with prudent measures that first allow them to avoid all the mistakes that have been made, to give confidence and hope to all the political groupings, and allow as much as possible all the activities actually to be transparent, to be open, and in line. The reason why the current, the framers of the current constitution actually included a provision on public participation is to allow people also to participate in key decision-making process that affects them. So to that extent, I think it's also an opportunity for IEBC to look at the ruling, that decision by the procurement board, and ensure that whatever they do meets the timeline and the expectations of the people of Kenya. We do not want them also to provide an opportunity for people who want these elections actually to be pushed. No, the elections must happen on the date stipulated under the current constitution. That is why IEBC must work round the clock.
Okay.
Round the clock, and ensure that every aspect that they're expected to undertake in preparation for the next general election is ready on time.
All right.
And the process remains open, transparent, and they should be allowed to work without fear, without intimidation, without abuse, so that we hold them to account to the rule of law.
Much of which is perceived to come from the political class. I'm talking about the intimidation.
Yes.
But Honorable Maore, as we wind up on this, I want to have the final word on your thoughts on IEBC and what they must get right, but also the responsibility of the political leaders in ensuring that theirs is a smooth operation that is within the confines of the law.
No, I think we are living in very difficult times. As you remember, we were fighting for the 2010 constitution to stay away from the dictatorship of the executive. And in between, we have entered into the realm of the judicial dictatorship, who have actually come up with a story which is not heard in any other jurisdiction of the Commonwealth, something called the basic structure, which you cannot amend. I have always grown up knowing that the only things you can't amend is the 10 Commandments. And the judges come and tell you that there's something in the Constitution you cannot amend. There's something why I'm mentioning that. Is in this ruling for the Kims, the tragic part of that ruling is somebody who was not a participant or not a bidder went to court and got the orders. Now that he got the orders, how does that order stand to benefit him? Because I know in procurement law, there is a very elaborate clause that you cannot go to challenge a tender if you are not a bidder. Yeah. Because that is how, if in case you get a ruling like they got, how does he benefit from it? This is called, ile kusumbua tu, just you see something, unaenda unakoroga. You just go and stare something, you just you laugh at everybody.
It's called tender agreement, so that you anticipate.
Yeah, these guys, what we are facing as a country now, we are determined to have elections on August 9. But you may have this interference by the judiciary, who don't care or who give rulings as if they don't live here. So that is very tragic. Now, come to the issue of the IEBC. Now that they are a full commission, we would ask Kenyans to respect it, demand respect for that institution, because these are the people who are supposed to conduct elections, and it is a very murky affair. An election in Kenya, there is nobody who loses. Even the one with the 200 votes against the 100,000, you hear him saying how the election was unfair to him, the officials, how they rigged him out. So we want a body which can declare results that can be accepted.
Okay.
And this body has come out at the right time. So Kenyans and politicians should stay away from it. They should go and participate not as the prefects of the IEBC, but as the humble servants of that IEBC until they announce the results.
Okay. All right. And that's about that. I want us to quickly take a look at the feedback that have been sending to us via Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. Asami Gituku with the hashtag being Debrek. And well, as we wait for that to come, this is who? Deshmore, you're saying that ASOL, that is arid and semi-arid lands or regions, remain marginalized because of their leaders. Devolved governments are conduit of corruption. Imagine 500 million shillings per MP. The county budget, which is 50%, goes to salaries. No movement will change ASOLs if the leaders aren't willing. Then being Charlie, religion and politics are both emotive and leave little room for reasoning. Therein lies the tragedy Kenya finds herself in currently. Engineer Lazaro, politicians should concentrate with their activities outside the pulpit. Mobilizing huge crowds to churches isn't even good for COVID protocols. This is something that should be closed for everyone but the authorities. Brian Mutiga, politicians always go to church because that is the only place they can meet and talk to many people from a certain area. The problem comes when they start insulting their competitors and turn it into a political rally. That is wrong and unacceptable. Okelo Mwalimu, no one should ever begrudge politicians for rallying or attempting to rally their communities together for the purposes of winning elections. This helps in acquisition of a stronger bargaining power, lobbying for development projects, etc. The only animal is negative ethnicity. And finally, Jacob Abere, political outlook now is shaping up. Regionalism is going to take center stage. Whoever is going to place spiced manifesto and propaganda is going to gain from swinging of votes. That's Jacob Abere there with your view there. Dr. Kenan, asante sana for making time for the show. Edwin Sifuna as well as Moka Maore, thank you so much for your time. Again, just to indicate that we invited Jonathan Mweke, who is the former Deputy Governor of Nairobi County. He did not show up. He cancelled his appearance late in the night. But the show continues. And I want to take you to